Well, today's the day. 1967 Bridgestone GTR 350. Time to get the engine out, get the crank out. There's some bearings that I think are sat in water for a long time and have been noisy. This bike runs good, got the carburetors all set, oil pump works, I got title, everything's ready to go, brakes, tires. Basically I fixed everything else possible, but I said the engine has been noisy and been kind of afraid to run it too much ever since I got it. So it's springtime, snow's melting, so time to get after it. I have other videos where I took the cylinders off and tried wrist pin bearings, but notice once I got the pistons off, I could see down in the crank it was rusty down there and the webs and stuff like that. So it is dirty down there, and it's just time to get them off. Get it. I do have bearings. I don't know if I have to separate the crank. There might be a center bearing in there. We'll kind of see when I get into it what kind of seals. I've been reading through the manual to see what kind of parts I need to replace, or there is a bolt that says I can leave the outer seals out. I haven't decided if I want to do that yet or not. We'll kind of see, but yeah, we'll get the seat off, tank off, all the covers off, exhaust off, and try and find a place to set the engine, because that's kind of one thing, taking the stuff apart, but then trying to put it someplace where you can actually get after it again. So I've done a few 175 Bridgestones and had pretty good luck with those, and I've been kind of putting this one off on the side because it's basically my nicest bike I have, and I want to get all the other things sorted out first, all the other parts, and because I bought this one probably 6-7 years ago, non-running. I don't think I've been running a really long time. I have some notes from the previous owner had some things done. I think they took two bikes and kind of combined it into one. I think he had some of the tins painted and stuff like that. So as far as the bike goes, it is in fairly good condition. These don't come apart. Oh yeah, top one. Just kind of time to see what kind of seals I can replace. It doesn't really smoke excessively or anything. The pistons and cylinders, everything looks to be in really nice condition. And I had oil pump at that all set in the carburetors. I spent a lot of time sinking those in and keeping everything as nice as possible. Like I said, it starts and runs like a dream, and I just, the 100 miles or so I put on it, and it's been great and everything, but it's just, I don't want to wreck a crank and then try and source one of those for this and get that to all fit in there. I use original parts. This one does have a bad spot on the case down below, so there is a motor mount that I had an issue with. It was cracked, or there's a blind, threaded part that had gone in and busted loose, because this bike also had broken exhaust stud. So there's a flange over here that I had fixed a couple years ago. And that was a thing with the earlier ones that had been welded. So I'm always a little bit leery of that and watch that, and I'll tighten this stuff real tight, but I just want to make sure it stays fixed, because how many times can you weld old aluminum? Because I surely can't. So now there's some stuff on the other side. This is the air cleaner. I think there's supposed to be some type of foam inside here. This only just had a screen, so I don't really know. I know guys that put foam in there, but then you end up, they run richer than they're supposed to. These are all things that once a bike gets back together, I'll probably do a bunch of retuning again, but it's nice to know that I'm starting with a really good running bike. I mean, I said this thing definitely has runs like a champ and starts, idles, you know, revs up. I just never know how hard to run an engine that possibly has main bearings out of it. So I was trying to catch it before anything else major happens to it. And it's really nice to start with a clean bike too. Try to keep it as wiped down and cleaned up as possible, because my big thing is if you have a dirty bike, snowmobile, whatever, how do you know when something breaks? And then small things turn into big things really fast. I also thought I had a problem with the clutch when I first got it going too. It's a dry clutch and it's super noisy. It makes a bunch of rattling sounds and everything else. But it hooks, it grabs. It seems like the plates are in really nice shape. I think somebody remakes those now, but they're kind of expensive. He's gonna fight me the whole way, I can tell. How this is all situated in here, but it is what it is. It's like these lines, oil lines that come down from the tank and then back up to the main bearing. Seem like they're just too wedged in here. Just not a big fan. I'll find a place for that stuff later. The oil pump drips no matter what I do. Not totally sure what to do with that now, other than try and catch some of the oil. I could probably take the oil line off of the tank. I've heard you can take oil cap or the caps off the rim there and block off your oil tank. We'll see. These are metal, so I'm going to try and find some rubber ones. Let's see how this works. That does not work. By the way, that's way too big. Not going to stop anything. So now what? Maybe I'll take it off. These I probably will replace. We'll see. If I can hold that up in the air or plug it with my random screws that I have here, but everything's super dirty. These lines will have to come out through there at some point, so I might as well. I don't know if I should just leave the seat and everything on it. If I can get, I think the engine will slide out with the tank and the seat on, so that's just that much less bolts I have to figure out a place for. Put this underneath. I will take the seat off to get the wiring off. So there's a rectifier and stuff that I gotta loosen up. Come off easier. So all the wiring and stuff is up there. I'll take a couple snapshots of that. It's a little goofy to work on. It seems like a lot of these bolts don't give you space to get a ratchet in there or a ratcheting part of the wrench. Just hoping to get them somewhat loose. They come out easy. This won't, of course. It's like that header bolt. I mean, is that really necessary to have all that? Guess I'll pop over the other side and do the same. Once I get the carburetors off, the clutch cable off, pull the chain guard, side covers, I'll drain the oil out of the transmission. So I got quite a leak out of my neutral switch. I'll keep an eye on that. Be careful of chain guard. I guess these are hard to come by in the GTR. I guess everybody, well, probably the same thing. Took them off my old dirt bikes or my old enduro bikes, thinking I was going to make a dirt bike out of it, and then got lost and thrown away. Just took the chain and some of the wiring off at the top there real quick. Nothing special there, but I do want to take this clutch cover off and see what, I think I can slide it past the clutch. These are the parts I hate because I don't want to break a case, but they can be tight on those seals around the shaft. It could be missing a screw. I mean, I don't know what this bushing with the oil pump drive. Let's see if the clutch will pull. Let's see what's behind the clutch. So rotating. Washer is getting kind of beat up. Gotta fold the edges over. Now what all comes out of here. Oh boy. There's a bearing back there. Oh boy. Seal in there. This gasket looks like new. There's my oil pump drive, I think. Must be. A little plastic gear. That's the oil pump drive. Well, that's just the tack. Make sure that bearing and that little washer stay in there. Oh boy, now we're in deep, huh? But yeah, that's the first I've ever had. That all apart. How is that going to go back together, you think? So I just pulled out all the motor mounts for the engine. This one went through. Plates up here, there's little bushings that seem to be in pretty good shape. Little isolators that go in here. It goes to the studs in the frame, goes all the way through. There was nuts and lock washers. Same thing for the back. There was a plate with your same bushing that went through, and then the whole rod through the back. So these go all the way through. I said, big one for the back. Like that. So there's a stud up in the bottom, got that one out. Hopefully I can just lift it out and set it on the ground without scratching too much. So there that goes. Now, I got that on the ground. Got to wipe up. I plan on taking the whole motorcycle off my lift. So I'll take all my parts and move them off the side, take the bike down. Then I'll move my lift, or my makeshift engine stand was gonna get moved back up on the lift, and then I can get the heads off and the cylinders and kind of go from there. But I like to be able to walk around and see the best I can, but it just takes a little bit to get some. I kind of run out of space, and I want to be able to walk all the way around it. I'll check back once I have that. Got a couple things in the clutch I want to take apart, but all in all, this can just kind of be out of my hair for right now. Back on the 350 here. Been a little bit. Had some snow and some nice weather, so had the kids out on the snowmobiles and then out on their bikes, so I tried to take a little break on this. But if I can get the cylinders and pistons off, I did have to go to O'Reilly and buy a 29mm socket. This one was for the crankshaft nut. So that took 2 trips. I thought it was a 28, but turns out it's a 29. So I haven't tried taking it off yet, but just want to make sure I have some of the tools here if I do get ambition to work on this stuff. And I had these off not that long ago. Just I checked the wrist pins and make sure that wasn't what was rattling. So top end of this bike is in really good shape, so just trying to save on this. The one wrist pin goes in and out of the piston kind of hard, so I'll probably skip over all that stuff because it's not too fun to watch. Yeah, it's like brand new under there. Speaking of weather, it is still probably 37 degrees out, so it's definitely not motorcycle weather. I did have my 175s out last weekend where just charged batteries, turned the gas on, and those are pretty trouble-free bikes. I really like those. So like I said, yeah, the underside of these, I'm going to have these off, so they should be super clean and nice yet. No worries with those. Let's see. I did put a little Honda bond on the bottom of these cylinders that time because, like I said, these are super nice inside. There should be no marks, no scoring or anything. So I think if I just gasket. I should take the head gasket off. These I just reuse. There we go. Like I said, those are like brand new inside. There's nothing to worry about the tops of these. I mean, they're just super nice yet. Did lose half my gasket, of course. I have new ones. Oh yeah, this is the one I had to have welded when I first got this bike. The older engines, this is like a really early, I think the serial number is like 1609. These flanges were real weak, I guess. So I had my local machine shop get in there and weld that stuff. And they did actually a good job. I had to grind away at the fins a little bit, but when it's all on there, you never even notice. And what's the alternative, you know? Except the inside of cylinders are so nice. I don't want to waste them. Alright, I take a little break there. Just got my heat gun, warmed up the base gasket a little bit. Got my other piston kind of protected. And then just a little bit of pulling and pushing and moving around. Cylinder is off. Like I said, I put a little gasket sealer because I ruined my gasket the last time, just kind of checking it out. So I mean, those are cheap enough, and I like the way that stuff seals, but as you can see, it does not come apart easy once you do all that stuff. Now I just have the little wrist pin clips on both cylinders. I try to leave the studs in there, but I don't like these sliding up and down on the studs like that, so I try and keep that a little bit clean. And set these pistons and rings, hopefully they're good. I think I get new ones, but that spike will just go back together because I can put a top end on anytime. So now the inside of the engine does look a lot better than it did. Like I said, I had a lot of rust just on the webbing in there. So now I tried to clean as much of that out as I could because, like I said, I think there was water in this engine for a long time. So once I get that stuff off, I'll take the side rotary valve covers off, pistons out, flip it over. I get a box to mark on my bolts. I don't know how much of that I'll show here because it is kind of long and tedious. Let's see if this crank comes off. Always makes me nervous. Like I said, that is backwards threads, but you never know if the last guy wrecked them or marred them up, because this one had a little notch hanging out of it. So I don't know if that was something that was pounded in the factory or what happened there, but it's a nice little, I don't know, my little screwdriver out here. Whatever kind of washer this is. That's not where I wanted it. That in there. Now, this should have had markings. I get the feeling when the mark on the crankshaft lines up with the mark on the crankshaft gear, and that's what's going to point to my clutch basket, or the big main gear there, and it's going to line up with my generator up there. I don't have that gear off my clutch basket yet, but that came off nice. Nice piece. It's got a little raceway on there. Keep that in mind. Like I said, I gotta keep that stuff so at all times again. Now there's a seal in there, which I might have. I'm not totally sure. I might do a little parts order here, but I think in the meantime, if I get these covers off, they're all the same length. Yeah. Keep the screws in there. So this is all a little rust spot here and there. Like I said, I think this sat for a while. This lip seal, I don't think that was leaking because it wasn't pulling oil in the transmission by any means. Now, this also has a mark. Goes. I'm gonna get that off now. Get my fingers in there. So there's. Yeah, perfect. Just what I wanted. You know, it's easy because it's got a keyway on there, but it's also notched in there, so you always know which one's which, because I think it's the same part number left to right. You just got to line them up the right way. Oh boy, is that bearing ever rusty. That will do it. So I'm guessing that is why this thing has been noisy all this time, because bearings definitely have water on them. I thought the guy that restored this put those in there, but this should be, the cover should just split that way. So if I just take this side off, kind of same way, same kind of deal, nice and cleaned up, O-ring on there. You can probably get those, just get a fresh one, same kind of thing. Rotary valve, got the nice mark on there. This one is pinned on there. What is that? Huh. Interesting. Same kind of thing, I think that. Kind of hard to hear, but I don't think it should make that kind of growling sound. Ah, that's interesting that that's a pin there. So now, next step would be flip it over, take the bolts off the bottom, and hey, one bolt I don't take out because this holds the shift drum apparently, so pretty easy to tell because that one's a way different color. This is a good example of my case that's busted off. Probably can't see it real well, but that this one does have this busted motor mount right here, so I don't know if we can get someone to glue it. Aluminum weld it and can blind tap it. Same guy that did the cylinder head. I'm hoping that's where I'm taking my stuff to, so we'll see if they can make that happen for me, or maybe instead of put it back together with a broken case, I'll just be missing that motor mount. Now, a lot of these little screws have, I thought they were numbered, but 175s are, but still I'll get a box and just put all these, draw a little outline of it, then I know kind of where they go. But then I can flip it back over, I should be able to pull a case off there, then my crank should just be hanging out. So I'm going to grab a box, get that marked, pull these out, and go from there. Okay, let's see if these little screws out of here. Wrong one. Where's my socket? I just had it. 13. Oh, what? 12. 14? There it is. Ha. Put in my little nice and clean. Have been underwater. Got washers while I'm at it. Big, little. Some of these have some grease on it. I think some of those have some type of sealer on them. This one 175s did. I don't know if they were a form of Loctite or if there's a form. And these are all clean. So I don't know what, this didn't have that, or I guess I'll find out. Nice to put it back together and shore up some of my oil leaks. This one had, I found the one big main one. It was just a shift drum over here that had the switch, I think for the neutral light. And that one was just pouring out of there, so I don't know if there's a seal behind it. There's a little paper gasket. I didn't pull it off yet to look at it. That's all stuff I can look at while waiting for the machine shop. So, those should be all my bolts. Should be able to flip it over. Make sure I don't forget any. I'm not totally sure what this thing is, but this stays. don't know what happened along here either. It looks like there's some type of, I don't know if it cracked or there's some type of like aluminum welding. Haven't quite figured that out either. I should probably read in the book if there's any screws I need to take out of here. My 175s have a plate inside here that moves, but I don't think this one's that way. Not much of a lip here. I could pry on the little bolt that would check the timing on the crank. Said I'm not a huge fan of that stuff, but it can be done. No? You want to pull apart? I bet you these two on top. What are those for? So let's just draw front. So interesting. Hopefully it's under the generator because I never mess up that. This out of the way. What now? Ah, there she goes. Ooh. Okay, so that lost its springiness. So there's the bottom of the case. So, bottom of the case, there's really nothing up in here, just seems pretty clean, seems pretty nice. This is where my problems are coming. This had a springiness to it, so I'll have to remember if my Kickstarter doesn't work. And all these gear sets, I kind of want to leave them here right now. As far as my crank and stuff goes, I can keep my fingers on this. I bet you it's those end bearings because there's a labyrinth seal in here. I'll have to get that O-ring. Like I said, I don't think my needle bearings are bad or anything. I said these cranks are good. I'll take a couple pictures because this is getting my phone. This should just pop right out. And lay it down there. There it is. Alright. So whatever happened, I'm guessing that's my sound. It seems pretty quiet. These have a little, that one's got some sound to it. You can see on the inside here, I mean it's not great, but I did try and clean up a while back to see what all the problem was, but this would be a nice jump here to get take this over, see what kind of parts I need. Like I said, I'd like to have them check these bearings because if these had, or if this one was shot, must have been something else. I think there's an O-ring in here, but yeah, they'll figure that stuff out. So I'll be back when I have more info. Alright, back on the GTR engine rebuild. So it's been a few months. I had the crankshaft rebuilt. I did finally find some bearings. So the inners and the outers, and then this labyrinth seal in the middle with new O-ring. I just got this back in the machine shop since these were the ones that were on there. You can tell the existing bearings that were in there, this one must have sat full of water. And they don't sound terrible. This one's probably the worst out of the group, but that was just enough to probably make it, vibrate. And it really didn't vibrate, just noisy. You can see here where there must have been some mud or something like that when it sat full of water. I'm not totally sure how this labyrinth seal works, how that keeps compression out, but I do have a new one in there, new old stock, kind of hard to get a hold of, but I finally figured it out, and there's the last bearing on the outside. So these have been replaced. I did buy a new bag of seals. So I have the O-rings for the rotary valve, and then the ends of the transmissions, and then behind the clutch, and then this one for the crankshaft to the transmission seal that seems to go out, that goes right in this rotary valve here. So hopefully in the next day or so I can get my clutch basket off. I haven't quite figured out how to get this gear pulled off. I don't have a good wrench for that, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal. I'll figure something out there. And then, like I said, there should be little seals on the ends here, here, and here on the transmission. I did get this case fixed. So this was busted out, and machine shop did weld that in there, and then they drilled it and they put helicoils in. So these are brand new threads, because I said this was cut off before, so hopefully the threads go in there real nice. The rest of the stuff, it's fairly clean. Just gotta make sure I put my little clips back in. I won't forget those. This all stayed there. But yeah, I'm trying to get some assembly started on this now that I have all my parts back, and hopefully get the case of seal back together. This is somewhat cleaned up, so like I said, the engine was in cleaned up shape, or good enough shape, but just want to make sure that I don't forget anything, because I don't have weird oil leaks. So I'll probably pop the sight glass out and just reseal around there too, if that was in good shape. And my clutch, that's all over here. Got a little pin, get that reassembled. Like I said, this thing worked really well. It was just, last thing was the engine got noisy. So hopefully these, being brand new, nice and smooth, nothing wrong there. I left the old crank bearings, they should be fine. This one, no up and down. There's a little bit of side to side, but the guys said that they were plenty usable. So I'll get back to you when I get this somewhat started back together. All right, so progress. Did put the new seals in the transmission and set the gear cases in there. Got those little dowel pins lined up. My kickstarter, I'm not quite sure if the case holds the ratcheting part down. Haven't quite understood that yet, but I know the spring sits in this little spot in the case there. That little seal was kind of a pain because it just dead ends back there, so I run a screw into it and pull that out. I forgot that I didn't put that gasket on yet, but I can do that later. But I do want to set my crankshaft in here, so I have my locators in here. I put a little bit of grease or a little bit of oil down here because I don't want to, make sure these pins line up with these pins, and then I didn't want to damage my little seal. I figure a little bit of oil would help it glide in there, but I only want to do this once. So hopefully when I drop this in here, it'll just set in real nice. Get these halfway lined up. Alright, something doesn't seem right. That pin should line, or that locator should line up with the bearing. Lines up on this side. Looks like I got some play against that knot, so I'm gonna check this out for a minute. So I look back at some of my pictures, and yeah, I had this in right. That is correct. That holds that index set over there, and this one's in here. So these do slide nice and smooth. Get my bearings lined up. Everything's in here. I got my surfaces cleaned up on both sides. I do use this Honda Bond stuff. Had that in my 175s. That seemed to work out pretty well to seal the engine up. So I'll probably just run over one more time with some cleaner and make sure this is all cleaned up nice, because you can kind of see where the bearings ran inside here. That's how I kind of knew on this one it was clean, and this is where the markings were in the aluminum. So that was all in there. So yeah, I'm gonna put a light coat of oil on all this stuff again too, because just make sure I put some on the shafts already, and it shifts and everything turns, and I just want to make sure that whatever happens with this ratchet thing, that's still got me a little bit nervous, but that should sit in there nice. And yeah, I'm gonna try and put a little coating on there and set that in there. This should be a lot easier. My 175s have an extra shaft up here that you have to line up all your shift forks. This one's all on the bottom, so this is way easier than those were. So next time, hopefully I can have that on there and let it sit for a day or two, let that all settle up, and then yeah, just I got a couple seals to put in the side cover here, and one in there, and O-rings, and should be about ready to go. Alright, got a good layer of my Honda Bond on this stuff here. Spread it around the best I could. Now I'm just going to drop this on top, and hopefully I'll hold my rods up, but figure that out. Pin. I think that's kind of where it's going to be. Boy, a bunch of fuzz on these. Put these little thread locker on some of these. Just keep the vibration down. Got a good squish going through the rotary valve and around. Yeah, it's a little dark in here. Off the front here. Down that side. In the back, the same thing. I'm gonna flip it over and put the rest of the bolts in and start torquing them down. Alright, back in the GTR. It's been a few months. I had a little issue with getting the crank back in straight enough. There's no really place for it to go, but I put the cases together. That's probably the third or fourth time, and the crank would be really tight. So I took it back to the machine shop and had them kind of peek at it. there were some locating pins. They pulled those out. So I think someone smashed this one together at one time. So I think that was causing a little bit of a clearance issue for me. But a couple days ago, had it nice and warm. I did get all the bolts in. I got everything torqued down. I think spins nice. I had, you can see where I fixed or had this motor mount fixed because that was broke off. I made a little seal for that. It's like a spring and a little roller on the bottom of one of the shift drums. But then all the bolts, you know, the bigger bolts, I think those were like 120 or 130 foot-pounds. The smaller screws, right around 100, right around 60. Kind of on the low side. So you can see my seal ended up real nice around here. I'll just shave this off around the rotary valve. But you know, I got new seals in there, new seals behind the sprocket, new seals in the shifter. I got a gasket for my neutral switch. I didn't put that in yet. But I've had this in the house, just kind of sealing up, so this got around here really nice. And then inside the transmission, yeah, it's hard to see, it's kind of behind all those gears. But you can see like around the sprockets and stuff. But yeah, as you can see, all this does move really nice. I threw some oil, you know, on the crank rods and then down in the holes, and then where the fuel or the oil pumps in. This one just comes right out the side here, so it'd be inside the rotary valve, so it doesn't really hit doing it this way. This is kind of the same way. It just kind of goes in and just dumps out on this side, so when the valve is in there, I can see how it gets those. But the center bearings, they just kind of leak down to these center holes, kind of like my 175s do the same thing. So I think today I'll just clean these up the rest of the way. I just use some acetone. I have some new base gaskets, but I can clean up my cylinders again and maybe throw my, you know, I have these pins were new, these bearings were new, so I have a couple more seals like my rotary valve. I didn't put that one in yet, but maybe I get those sides sealed up, and I have the O-rings and stuff like that for the rotary valve seals there. And these are some of my old ones. There's really nothing wrong with these other than they were, you know, probably original. Do use blue Loctite on all the screws that hold the cases together. So hopefully after, you know, 3-4 days of being inside, being nice and warm, because it's, I don't know, 0 out right now. So trying to keep it nice and warm in here. But yeah, I want to see if I can't put the pistons in and just kind of get this pile back on here, because I'd like to get the bike back on my lift and try and get this stuff back in one piece. Then I'll have to work on getting this nut off the clutch basket, because I got a seal here. I'm going to pop out my sight glass and reseal that up. But yeah, the timing gear is on the back side of this, so I have to get that off before I can put the transmission back together and clean that stuff all up. But it's just because I think there's a seal behind here too, so that'll pretty much take care of all the seals that I bought. And then I got a new seal for around the clutch, I guess, cover, probably transmission cover. So it should be, hopefully I don't have too many leaks when I'm all done. So I'll update here in a minute. Alright, one piston installed. We got both little clips in there, one on each side. So spin around a couple times, make sure they're seated in there really well. Got my exhaust side to the exhaust. I have my gaskets on there, ready to go. I just re-oiled. I just dumped 2-stroke oil right down the center there and on the crank pins again. I did clean this all up with acetone, and my cylinder's all cleaned up. I'm gonna slide that piston on this side, and I'll just dump a bunch of oil. I just use my same old 2-stroke oil and a little cap full. I just kind of smear around with my fingers and get in there best I can. I have used sealer on this already, but I'm just going to go with the regular. These are brand new gaskets, and the surfaces are really nice, so there should be no reason to do that. So yeah, hopefully next time I can have that piston in here. Like I said, my wrist pins, everything was new, so I might have to try and get a little more of that glue out of the inside there, but we'll keep moving forward. Alright, one cylinder in. My second cylinder, I just got over the rings. Gets kind of tight in here because you can't get your fingers in there to push the rings in real well with the locator pins. But yeah, my gasket's in there. It's all lubed up. I should just slide right down as long as I don't hook my gasket on the skirt. Done that already. There, it just settles right in. There, now. Just go up and down nice. That much closer. Head gaskets in the heads and the head bolts, that's all real easy stuff. I'll just reuse that. Those are nice little, I don't know if they're aluminum gaskets or what, but yeah, just want to get that sealed up and more pieces in there. Well, I think I got as far as I want today. Got my cylinders on. I didn't torque down the heads yet. I got to check what that is going to be. But, I mean, it turns over with compression now. We're getting real close now, so yeah, it's nice to have more parts off the shelf onto here. So I just kind of blew this out a little bit. I'll try and polish these up a little bit, but every time I polish the aluminum, it just gets all corroded up again anyways. So yeah, just a little update and getting closer. Well, I think we're at the point. Can pull the bike out and try to marry the engine back up. So this has been sitting here, well, probably since last April or so. It's January now, so I did put the rotary valves in, everything lined up, put my pinion nut on. This is left-handed thread, so I just knocked it on with a little impact. There are timing marks on here, so there's a pin and the gear and the shaft and everything lines up in there, and the new O-ring and stuff in there, and rotary valve, that pin's all lined up. I got my heads torqued down. Everything should be good there. Just went slow with that stuff. Got this side on the same, just new O-ring in there, and not much to this side. So I'm thinking the next step would be to get this back in the frame. Once I get the bike up here, and then I can start putting the rest of the stuff on. So clutch will be a whole another saga, but the oil pump and the oil pump drive and that sort of stuff, I kind of need my side cover for all that stuff. And like I said, I got to work on the side cover yet to get this sealed back up, this one replaced, this off, and that seal. You know, oil pump goes through here, and you know that's where it mounts on too. And some of these screws, I don't know. We're trying to flatten them out, trying to clean them up a little bit. I have a new gasket, so next time you see it, hopefully this is back in the frame. Little update on the GTR. I did get the clutch basket and the driven gear separated. That was actually quite a bit of a pain. The big thing was I had to get a puller that would grab these three holes, because this basket, there's a seal that runs on the edge there. I put that new seal in there, but the driven gear was on the back side of the cover, and this is on the front side because of the dry clutch. So I didn't know what, these look threaded to me, but there's nuts that'll probably push this back on here. There's a small O-ring in there, which I'm not really sure how that seals up. But I did put this back on. I got the dots lined up on the pinion, dots lined up on the generator, and I'm about ready. I got this cleaned up. I have my new gasket around the outside there. I'm probably just going to put that on dry. I don't know if I should put sealer on there or not. I did reseal my sight glass, and I put the new seal in there and that one. So hopefully, you know, there's a gear that runs the oil pump. Yeah, that goes off back there. No, that runs something else. I can't remember. Either way, the oil pump is driven off up there, off the pinion gear there. So about ready to just screw this back on. That should just slide right over the top. This should be timed. Put my bolts in there. Like I said, I was just trying to let my sealer, that pushed right out so that doesn't leak, hopefully. So yeah, that should just slide right on there. I put my clutch basket. Just talk about these dots and these marks. I'm just gonna try and line it all up with the end of the pinion, because the clutch itself has kind of some marks on it too that line up. Then we try and, I think that one right there is that dot. I was reading through the book. I don't know if I'll be able to see that stuff once it's all together or not, but right now I think I'm getting a lot closer to getting that, to get that gear off there. That was kind of a pain to find a puller that would grab those 3 holes. And then so I had to get the gear lined up with these things without being able to see it, and then, you know, push on the end of that shaft. Otherwise, because I had the cover off without it, and that really didn't have any way to push against anything. So hopefully next time I'll put that on there and kind of let it set. Go from there. Right, getting close to putting the driven gear in the clutch basket and all these parts in between. So now everything's installed, because there was a seal, then a little washer behind there, then there's 2 needle bearings with a spacer in between, then behind there's another thrust washer that's kind of between the bearing and the gear that actually turns the, I think that has to do with the Kickstarter, but basically it's just got a tube thing that hooks onto this. So what I'm saying is, this is in the side of the transmission. So there's a thrust bearing, gear. It's got the 2 ears that actually lock into the gear. So I have those 2 needle bearings with the, what do they call it, number 42, a needle bearing spacer. It's pretty straightforward. So I put my gear on there, lined up, and then there was another number 5 thrust washer and that number 3 oil seal. Then there's an O-ring that goes around the basket, and then that'll go to the rest once I put the basket actually on. But I can't put the basket on until I put the side cover on, and then because, you know, the basket slides over these teeth here. So like I said, this seal, this oil seal is new. It's got that thrust washer behind there. It's got the 2 needle bearings. That stuff's all oiled up real nice. And then if I can just slide on the rest of the side cover here, do have to put the oil pump drive, does have to go through here. Had this oiled up already, but I'll just put a little bit more on. So the oil pump drive that actually meshes with the pinion gear. And like I said, I got my new gasket on there, pretty lined up. It should be pretty good. This should be drying pretty good, that the new seal on the sight glass. And then this should mesh up with I think that's that tack that runs up through the clutch cable. I'm not totally sure. Should have a rubber hammer, but just tap. Just need enough vibration to get that to line up. So then my box of screws. You should start, just make sure I get the holes lined up with the new seal so I don't rip that at all, but they're going in real easy. Hopefully, with the new seal and the sight glass and all this stuff, this will leak less. I mean, I'm sure it's going to leak somewhere because it is an old 2-stroke, and it seems like all my other ones leak. I'll have to figure something out with my sight glass here. This might drip a little bit. There's a little bit of oil on there. It's all pretty much leaked out. But I've had an issue with these banjo fittings. I gotta get a fiber washer. I've tried copper and plastic and everything else. My brother's got a set there. I'm going to try and grab what he has. But for right now, yeah, this seal should be on here. And that new seal should line right up with that on there. So those should just mesh right up. And then I do have the nuts and the lock washer and stuff like that that kind of locks all that in place. Then I can start assembling my clutch and clutch basket again. But for right now, I might just leave that as progress for today. I figure it's a good spot to have a little update. I put my side cover on and I forgot about the kick shaft. So what was happening is the kick shaft would engage, but there was no stop on this end. So it would like spring forward about this far, and it would roll the engine over, but it wouldn't spring back. So this gear, that sits on here, and this runs the tack and stuff. But basically, take the pin or the clamp and the wash, 2 washers which I didn't even know about, off of there. And this is a little stopper. It talks about in the book you gotta take the stopper off and then wind the kick shaft around and then put the stopper back on so it hits right there. Because otherwise, since I had my cases apart and everything apart, this was just on the other side here, so it'd go around here and it'd spring forward. But yeah, so just those 2 screws, and then now you can see my little spring in there. My little thing will catch every time. So if I put the sprocket back on, it goes right into turning over. So yeah, I just thought that was a little interesting thing. So yeah, it looks like I have 2 washers, wave washers, whatever they are. I'll double check my book to make sure that these both go on this side. So I've had pretty good luck. Like I said, we're talking about the Kickstarter shaft. The book talks about, fitting the kick shaft stopper assembly, and when you put the covers together, you gotta, crank the kick shaft by fitting the kick pedal temporarily to the kick shaft. And then here's a kick ratchet, and fit the kick shaft stopper at the ratchet position. So it wasn't, I read that probably 15 times to kind of see what I was talking about. But long story short, the little plate with the 2 screws, you spin it around, put the 2 screws back on. It's just kind of winding the shifter. And it talks about the shift shaft too, so it seems to shift good through all the gears, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. So I'm just going to double check. My timing should all stay the same. I'm going to take my gears apart, but I'll probably pull off anyway. And then I got to go through my clutch assembly and getting the drum. Somehow this has a timing mark there. And I think this has an extra hole in it. It's supposed to line up that way, so I kind of put some marks on there too, but I'll slide that together and make sure I put my timing gear or for my oil pump drive. But yeah, I'm gonna kind of put it back together. But yeah, that was weird because I had this whole side cover on and then it shifted funny. So I'll put this back on, press my clutch basket back on, and go from there. Get my side cover back in, and I started assembling my clutch. So got my washers and stuff on here, folded over. You got the basket in there. There was, washers in between. Now I'm gonna have to put my thing that actually pushes the clutch from the other side. There's a small pin that goes in, because these pull from the other side, so the clutch pulls down there, goes through. So one pin goes in there, this goes in there, and then this basket, or this, whatever the end of the clutch here, has some sort of locator pin on it. So there's a hole right here that has to line up with the hole in the basket. So it wants to be, lined up like that. So I have that hole right there. That one right there. So that should push nice right there. Now, I throw a spring on. If I can get one or two of these started, kind of be my clutch kind of together. So I really struggled with this one when I first got it. It always slip, but I always have an issue. And I had this apart, and the way the plates go together, there's 3 different diagrams and different modifications and different, pressure plates and that sort of thing. So it talks about thicker plates and thinner plates and leaving one in and one extra one. I just put it together the way I had it the last time. That worked and didn't slip. But yeah, like they said, this is getting closer. I'll have to put, I get my rest of my springs. So this is the rod that'll go in from the other side that pushes against that stuff. And then there's a ball between the actual actuator in there, so that will push back and forth there. So I'll clean that stuff before I go too far. But yeah, this might be it for tonight. I'll just do a little bit more. Hopefully tomorrow tomorrow night, this weekend, put the exhaust manifolds on and oil pump, get that shored up in there. I have some new lines and put I'm going to squirt a bunch of oil in the mains before I put this all together, because now that's in one piece. And I got new lines that go to here. Try and pop this sight glass out. I don't know, I don't want to wreck it though, so I'm going to try and find some different washers for this. This bridge all leaked out by now, but like I said, I still have to bolt the engine down and that sort of thing. But yeah, having this together, then the other side I have the neutral switch in here. I have a new gasket for, and then yeah, this is where the shaft comes out for the clutch, and the rest of it's inside of there. And I should be able to, get this shored up. I got the covers here. I mean, there's no gaskets or washers. I'll wipe them down a little bit, clean the screws up a little bit. I guess I should probably put this roller on here. I got to take my kickstarter back off, but the kickstarter relies on the bolt to open up to make sure I had my spring action here. So now it's got a nice stopper on it. So confident with that. So we're getting close now. All right, back in the GTR. Made quite a bit of progress lately. Just about ready to probably fire this thing up. I had to wait a little bit for some parts. I had a little issue with the valves that go into for the oil lines that go into the main bearings there. One of those twisted off. I was just started to tighten that one in there, and it's like the weight of the ratchet twisted off, so it's got that chuck ball in there in the spring. So this is what that all looks like. So I did have to get another one sent to me, so it's been a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of my extra parts. I get new oil lines and all my old seals and stuff. So I did prime all my lines with 2-stroke oil. So I just use my little oil, my, what do you call that thing, syringe, push the oil through, got a little bubble there. But when I start it, I'm gonna hold the oil pump wide open anyway, so we don't have any issues with that. So this should be clear of the clutch. I do have a little bit of premix in the tank. This, I just used some copper washers, like from must be some old brake caliper washers. I didn't have the original fiber ones, but this has been on here for well over a week. I don't have any drips or anything. I put just enough oil in. It's probably just at the bottom of the sight glass there, so I should put more in. I do have transmission oil in. I just use the regular old Honda 4-stroke oil. This drips just a little bit. And I got this seal because I put one on the other side, but I only bought one that time, so I do have a seal for here I'll put in at some point. I got my tack oiled up. Like I said, the gas is kind of old in there, but I just put some 2-stroke oil and then some fresh gas on top of that. I don't have my seat bolted down yet, so I don't plan on sitting on it. Just want to get it close, but my exhaust should be tightened, my underneath. So that was my new weld. So I had this bolt, this motor mount was broken out. So all the other stuff should be sealed up and new bolts, and this is all Loctited. I got my bolts up front here. This stuff should be all tight, centered in there pretty well. So I did get let's see on the other side. My kickstarter is on here. I do have a new spring for the inside of here. So the spring just doesn't sit really well. And I got the new rubber thing, but it's split right away. So I don't know if I'll just wire that up or what I'll do with that. But yeah, with the clutch and all the adjustments, carburetor, I'll have to put some new gas lines on. I didn't get that just yet. But I got my battery hooked up, chain guards on, my neutral lights. I did have a little issue with the little indicator that shows, there's a shaft behind here, so when you shift, it goes around and you have your fifth gear light and your neutral light. Well, that little tab and that little plastic switch must have got just bent just wrong, but I did have another one on my 175 block had the same one. This is a fifth gear shaft or a 175. Does the same switch cover and stuff like that, so I did have a spare part down there. I don't have my exhaust manifolds very tight. They said this is the one that had to be repaired at one time, so I'm just going to kind of let it run for a little bit and see where we're at with that. So I'm going to push it over to the door and turn the gas on and see if it fires. Turn the gas on. It's been a while since that's been on. Run down to the tubes, fill my carburetors up. Not overflowing yet. But that's all good there. So I should have all set to go there. Open this up. Turn my key on. Give it some choke. This is kind of awkward up here, but give it a few kicks. All right. See that? Oh, nice. Bubbles are almost out. A couple little ones in there. I'll probably tighten that up. It's kind of hard to see. There's just a little one kind of pushing through. Neutral light on, 5,900 miles. A really good first start, really happy. It's just super quiet down here, no more main bearing noises at all. All I can hear is the rotary valves going around. Well, that went really well. So as you can see, a couple kicks took right off. Also have to shore up a couple little, tighten up some lines. Like I said, I'm really nervous about tightening those little valves because that one snapped off on me. That was a big bummer, but yeah, I went through all the gears, all 6 gears are there. It's all good. I'll probably do a little bit of adjusting on the clutch. These are a little bit goofy with the dry clutch, but I put it together the same way I had it. Still full of oil. I did, like I said, I wanted to run it with the transmission on, so it had plenty of time to sling some of that oil around because these have a lot of weird little passages inside there. And like I said, I had a little bit of oil down in the valley here because I did have this a little bit loose. But, rest of it, I'll tighten up my manifolds a little bit. I just gave them another little 1/8 of a turn just to kind of stay on top of that. And, it's, I don't know, probably 20 degrees today. And it's January, 27th here in Minnesota. So it's not like I'm going to go for a ride. But you know what? Thursday it's going to be like 46 degrees. So it just might have to come out and go down the street just to say I did. I'll have to put the seat back on. I did get a grab handle. I'll have to make some type of mount for that. Then I can start cleaning up because it doesn't go on either side. Just want to have, the handle should fit right there. That'll look nice. I never had one, so I'm pumped about that. The tires, I'll have to get tires and tubes and stuff like that because, these are, and this one doesn't have any dry rotting at all, but it's probably 20 years old. The front one's still a Bridgestone, and it probably has, it's a little bit of dry cracking along here, so, I took it real easy. I rode around the neighborhood, with these tires on here, but nothing I'd take out in the interstate or anything. But this bike will probably just stick around the roads where you don't need to go 80 miles an hour all the time. That's why I ride Bridgestones now. So, well, cool. I'll probably have one more video, hopefully, of the thing riding down the street. Otherwise, yeah, this one's really went well. I had a hard time getting the bearings. That was kind of a hurdle. But this one obviously had water in the crank. But after that, the sealer went really nice. Cylinders and pistons, that stuff was all in really nice shape. All the other parts of the bike was really sorted out before I started on this one. That was kind of my last, make sure everything else is good. And it should be now. So hopefully this next summer, put some miles on this one and get these things out and about, So, till next time, well, got the bike outside, out in the sunshine, looks pretty good. I fired up and let it smoke for a little bit out here and warm up. Maybe take it for a little spin, if I'm lucky. Gas is on, choke on, key on. Here we are. It's March 2nd, probably March 3rd. Nice sunny day. Time to take the GTR for a little spin. It's been rainy and sloppy around here, so time to warm it up a little bit and see how it sounds on the street. Yes, actually, start from here. Starts right up, smoking nice. Got the clutch adjusted, that should be pretty good. My tack is no good. 5,952 miles. Yeah, it's only probably 45 degrees today, so give it a minute. Put my helmet on and go from there. All right, let's fire it up. Just like it did, and just nice and quiet. That's a lot of work. Get those main bearings in there. The oil tank's good. This stuff doesn't leak. Sight glass transmission's good. The clutches, it's a little bit noisy yet, but that'll wear in. But all in all, what a success. Just need some nicer days and warmer weather again, but nice to get it cleaned up and put her back in the garage for a while. There. So happy that this one really turned out nice. So, like I said, can't wait to get some miles on it, and you know, I just need an air cleaner yet, I believe. You know, my little rubber thing. This one split when I put it on there, so I did put the little ball in here so this stays in here. This was always flopping out. It's a little bit loose. I have new foot pegs for it. And other than that, you know, I got the new handle. Never had that one. But probably need some new tires at some point too, but as of right now, totally good to go. So, till next time.